Good day, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on CMS 57, or more precisely, CMS 0057-F compliance. Today, we're going to talk about how to wrap, comply, and iteratively modernize using BPM+. I'm Denis Gagne from Trisotech. I'm the CEO and CTO of Trisotech.
And I'm Melanie Gauthier. I'm the solution architect at Trisotech.
So our goal today is to give you a global overview of CMS-57, address some of the upcoming deadlines and different aspects that will need to be addressed. So the floor is yours, Melanie.
Thank you, Denis, for the introduction. So I'm pretty sure that most of you that join us today are aware of CMS-57, but still I'm going to do a quick recap and overview of what it is so we are all on the same page. So CMS-57 will be effective on January 1st, 2027. This is coming sooner than we might think. And there's even some requirement that will be effective prior to this date. So by January 2026, you need to be able to report reason for prioritization denial and some metric on your prior process and patient data. But the main deadline is January 2027. So what is that mandate about? The big overline is FHIR interoperability to streamline the prioritization process. The ultimate goal here is to make that experience way more smoother for patients, and they want to bring the deadline from to 72 hours for urgent prior authorization and 7 calendar days for non-urgent prior authorization. So the whole goal is to streamline that whole process, make everything easier so the patient can get the care they need faster.
So fundamentally, this change affects a little bit of everybody, certainly the payer organization, but also the provider and the patient, and hopefully getting better service to the patient. As we know, prior authorization has a tendency to be delayed or be timely to the point where sometimes a patient even die before they receive the prior authorization to what they need. So I think the mandate is there to improve that situation while leveraging interoperability standards like FHIR and also implementing some best practice in terms of time and delay. Anything else that mandate covers, Melanie, from your point of view?
Yeah, we're going into more detail in the next slide too, but what I wanted to mention is, yeah, as Denis mentioned, this will have a huge impact on our organization. The provider will need to be able to connect to the payer to get to pass the data to get the proper information, and the payer must be able to answer quicker to those requests and in an automatic way. This is a lot of work, but today we want to show you how this can be leveraged as an opportunity to improve everything. So as Denis asked right before, yes, that mandate covers more than the prior authorization, although this is still the focus. So they also want to add, there's already an API that was imposed for payer access data. So now they want to add the prioritization to that data. So this is something that needs to be had. They also want to have the payer-to-payer interaction. So when a patient moves payer, his data can follow him. So his history without any money information to kind of keep separation of concern a bit, but be able to have his history follow. And payer to provider data sharing also, again, to improve everything, be able to know why something is rejected. That helps a lot know how to make the request better. So the reason for denial is also something that must be provided. I think I mentioned it before, for January 1, 2026. Here at Trisotech, we believe, oh yeah, sorry, Denis.
No, go ahead.
Okay. No. Here at Trisotech, we believe our the main help we can provide the organization is with the prior authorization, since this is where most logic happens. The other one are data sharing, so simpler in a sense, still need to be FHIR-based, but for the prior authorization, this is where logic is involved and more steps are involved. You can move to the next slide.
So fundamentally, the mandate is really quite a large burden on the payer organization. They're the one that have probably the biggest part of the work to be done there, but it's going to benefit also providers and patient in the end. Okay, excellent.
Definitely. So we can move to. So let's focus a bit more on the prior authorization process. So what the mandate state is, we want patients to be able to know what they are covered for, and if there is a prior authorization need, and to get that prior authorization faster. So this is the whole the outline of it. So how it is implemented, it's split into 3 main steps. So the first one that answers the question, am I covered, is the coverage requirement discovery, or CRD for short. So this is where from the provider side, we will start a request and ask when the request is ready to get the CRD. So that will answer 3 main questions. Is that patient covered with you for that request I'm about to do? Do I need a prior authorization for it? Because maybe you don't, and then you can go ahead and just do the order. And finally, if there is a prior authorization needed, do I need more information? And this is where we move on to the next step, which is the document template and rules, or the DTR. So from that point, once we know patient is covered, a PA is needed, and we need more information, the payer needs to provide the proper questionnaire to gather as much information as possible, but not too much. So only the required information. So it's not a huge questionnaire they have to answer, and you only read 3 questions of it. So the goal is to have really focused questionnaire to get the proper information to be able to give the answer in the final step, which is the actual prioritization. So now with all that information in hand, the provider send that back to you with all the details, and the payer needs to do the call, is the prior authorized or not.
So those are all the steps from the mostly from the payer organization, from a provider and patient point of view. This is going to be transparent. It's going to be happening in the background. And from what I gathered from what you said, this is all going to be done automatically through interfaces with the system that the provider is using to make sure that the right information is requested and provided, so that we can increase the efficiency of doing the prior authorization.
Yeah, exactly. And you remind me of a point that I forgot to mention. So when you go from left to right, you can see it as the more automatic and the more human intervention on the right. So the CRD is really from the request, the practitioner entered, you gather all the information automatically from the request and the patient, and you send that to the payer. So it should be instant. So the requirement speed of that is 5 milliseconds. So you don't have to, you should not take too long. You can do more FHIR call to the provider to get more information, but this is mostly automatic. Then the next step, there's data entering. But again, we want that to be less burden as possible. So as much as possible, the questionnaire can be pre-filled if possible. So the practitioner can only review that and complete any missing information. And then you send that. And in an ideal world, if everything is done properly, maybe at the end of that DTR, you can already know if the prior authorization is okay. And you can ask the provider, do you want it right away? If all the information is there and you are able to do it. So this is something that is now allowed by CMS-57, since they reduce the enforcement of the X12 thing. So, and if you don't, then you can move to the past and do the full thing to be sure that the prior authorization is allowed or denied.
So fundamentally, things can happen very quickly. So the requirement is almost instantaneous. It will check whether you're eligible for it. Then a questionnaire pre-fill will show up, and it's just a matter for the provider to actually accept the answers there or correct the answers if there is some missing. And then if there is automation on the prior authorization side, the answer could be almost instantaneous. So that's the happy path. Oh, that's going to make things a lot faster.
That's the happy path. And if not, you need to notify that the request is pending. So this is the less happy path that you need to wait a bit and the request gets pending. So this is the whole goal now. How do we get there? So most payer already have some automation because of X12 that was already enforced. So there's some core that is automized. So the really first step is to wrap that and put the FHIR API in front of it and outside of it to be compliant. And once this is done, you can then modernize at your own pace to be able to do all the steps. This will reduce disruption from the payer side because you're going to do it progressively and still gain a benefit from time to time. So those legacy systems can be slowly replaced by a more modern approach, ideally BPM plus with Trisotech. We're going to discuss that a bit further later. And so this is the step that are suggested to move forward and be able to comply by January 1st, 2027, which is a year and a half from now.
So there's a lot of work to be done in a very short time, in essence. And from what I gathered from what you're saying here is that while there is a lot of work to be done from the payer organization, that could be an opportunity to modernize maybe some legacy system that have been there. So rather than just maybe sticking a front end to this or whatever it may take, it could be an opportunity to modernize the back office part of prior authorization and move into a more modern and efficient type of architecture.
Yeah, exactly, and get rid because most people have different portal, fax still widely used in the healthcare system. So the goal of that is to get the data. If only the data can come in already filled, that's going to be a huge life-saving experience because then you have everything you need. You don't need to do 20 back and forth, call someone, you don't know who, and then it's somewhere in the middle and no one knows where to do. So gathering all the data, entering it in the existing system and giving the answer back, that's going to be a huge gain.
Excellent.
So how exactly can Trisotech wants to be a partner with you to do that, and we want to provide as much support as we can. So how the ground base for that is the legacy policy coverage and your existing prioritization system. And then we can put in front of that what we call a BPM coordination and dispatch. So BPM plus consists of BPMN, business process modeling, CMM, case management modeling, and our favorite tool, the decision modeling, the DMN, decision modeling and notation. So all of those can be used to kind of know which system to call depending on which request, and then end that with the proper FHIR response. And as you progress into that, you can actually replace those legacy systems with a natural decision that will be done for you. And have control of the decision, view it in a really more human form. So instead of some opaque, all those legacy policy in PDF can be bringing something that is human understandable and computer understandable. So then you get better process logic and more visible. And all of that is supported by, of course, FHIR APIs and FHIR resource that we might provide to you.
So fundamentally, the mandate is for the first layer that we're seeing on that diagram, which is the FHIR API and the FHIR resource support. So that's what the mandate is really about.
Exactly.
And then at the lower end, we have the existing legacy system or the existing system. And what you're suggesting is that we introduce a layer in between that will give us the capability of leveraging visual modeling standards to make things much more consumable and easily consumable for people that have to implement this and put that live.
And maintain that over time too. So this is something that will be way easier to modify and maintain over the time.
Excellent.
So now I'm going to give you the floor, I think, for a small presentation of the notion of that. And while you said, I'm just going to address Anderson's question, because that 5 minutes will be kind of a huge step. So Ed Anderson has said that I said that it was 5 minutes to do from CRD to pass, but it's not what I said. I said that the CRD, which is the very first step to know if a patient is covered and if a PA is needed, should be 5 milliseconds. So it should be instant, essentially. And the other step, there's no timeline aside from the pass that should be completed in 7 calendar days for non-urgent requests. So no,
yeah, so the numbers you were giving was the fact that things could be done very quickly, but the only mandate is the 7 hours and
72 hours for urgent requests and 7 calendar days for non-urgent requests.
Okay,
and
so that's really what needs to be met in terms of timing.
Yeah, that's really the hard requirement, is that the CRD is from the implementation guide. Mostly it's a requirement from the implementation guide, so it's not required per se, but strongly suggested.
Okay, so let me go into some kind of a demo. It's more of a showcasing. Here we can see that the 3 APIs that impact prior authorization are the DTR, the CRD, and the prior authorization, PAS. Both of them are based on implementation guides from FHIR, more particularly from HL7, more particularly from the Da Vinci project, which are themselves leveraging the FHIR standard. Then we have the notion of Smart on FHIR that support that, and clinical decision support, CDS hooks. So that gives you a quick visual surrounding of what's needed and how this can evolve together. Then let's look at how, using visual models, we can get a very simple grasp and control and understanding, but also automating this. So what I'm showing you now, it's a BPMN diagram of the scenario that Melanie just presented. We can step through it. And you see some of the terms are highlighted. They come from that previous model that I was showing, where you can clearly define your nomenclature, the terminology or the monikers you're using internally. So that can be whatever you want. Attach that to specific coding, LOINC or SNOMED coding, or whatever you may need in the particular context, so that you have complete disambiguation of what's going on. So fundamentally, the first step is that there is a requirement or an order that is passed. This then goes to a CRD system that will bring you back, or service if you want, that will bring you back the actual information of whether coverage is there. It's whether this is eligible according to coverage. Here we're showing it in the context of a CDS hook. So the provider would basically, in his EHR, enter the order and would receive a card appearing, a CDS hook card appearing, saying, yes, your patient is covered for that order. Then there's going to be, in the background, a requirement, a look at the documentation that is required for that particular order, that will then populate a FHIR questionnaire and put it in front of the provider, pre-fill. And then once this information is submitted, then it's going to move into the actual prior authorization logic of the payer organization. If they use some legacy X12, it can call the X12 system to get the information, bring it back, convert it, and then return back with the actual prior authorization of this. So naturally here, I'm not showing all the logic, the cases where there's missing information or it's being redressed. So there was a non-authorization that was submitted and there's being redressed. But the whole idea here is to show you that you can capture all this logic visually very simply. And the beauty of a standard like BPM BPMN here, or this family of BPM plus, is you do that visually. So you do all your coding, all your preparation visually. It is just attached to specific events and will give you what you need to happen in the background. So that's part of the benefits that Trisotech can bring in, is by, as Melanie showed, between the API, the FHIR API that you have to provide in your legacy system, we can slide this kind of system that offers the BPM plus standards to visually model how your logic should take place. Going one layer deeper, so this is for the coordination, everything that has to do with the orchestration of the different services. But going
this is an high-level view, yeah.
Yes. Going a little bit deeper, if we look at a particular prior authorization, so I have an example here. This is for a total knee arthroplasty, so a replacement of a knee. But what we found with many of our customers on the payer side is prior authorization often follow a very similar pattern. So this pattern is visually very obvious here. So the first thing we do is we do a decision on whether there's contraindication for the particular, in this case, the particular surgery. If there are contraindication, then we just basically reject the authorization, the prior authorization, pending the problem resolution. If there are absolutely no contraindication, then we're going to check for the severity. Is the problem, the knee problem in this particular case, severe enough? If it's not severe enough, then we'll reject the case based on the current status of the disease that is not advanced enough to warrant the actual intervention. But if it is severe enough, then we'll finally check whether conservative therapy was done. If no, we'll reject or ask to resubmit after conservative therapy. And then finally, if conservative therapy was tried and failed, then we will approve the total knee arthroplasty. But this pattern of contraindication, severity, conservative therapy is a pattern that we find happening a lot in most prior authorization. And the beauty of this approach here is you can see it is very visual how you assemble that logic. And then you can basically, the benefit is that not only this is a visualization of what you need to happen, is that this visualization is also machine executable. So this model that you see on the screen is something that is both human readable and machine executable. So there's only one artifact to get you to where you need to be.
So what you draw is what you automate, what you execute.
Fundamentally, yes. What you see is what you get, or what you draw is what you automate. You're quite right.
Yeah. So that will bring us to, so now that you have a better idea of how that you can Trisotech, so the whole goal here is to try to have a return of investment on all of that, because we know it's going to be costly, it's going to require a lot of investment, but the whole goal here is to streamline everything and enhance productivity. There's going to be cost saving in the end, because you're going to reduce the number of manual intervention, the number of people that are typing information in the system, from one to another, answering a call, calling to get all the information. So this is all cost saving. And once you realize some prioritization, as Denis showed right before, then you're going to have visible thing. It's going to be a future proofing, because that's a standard. So BPMN has been around for what, 20 years? DMN is getting more mature, is really well received. So this is something that will be around for a long time and is easily maintained. So you future-proof your solution, make it more easy to maintain. So those are the benefits you can get from it.
Excellent. So fundamentally, you're by introducing this kind of technology, you can not only quickly respond to the requirement of the mandate, but you can also set yourself for future improvements.
And to reach that butterfly state, we might need to start slower. So the first step is, how is a baby butterfly in English? The chenille. So you start as a chenille, sorry, and then by just wrapping what you have with FHIR, and then iteratively you will get better. You can replace all your legacy system with a mix of BPM Plus and the legacy system, and the whole goal is by the end to have agile process with BPM Plus, mostly with DMN and BPMN, to do that analysis and to be free, be the butterfly, and be future-proof. And once you are there, and even along the way, you can see other opportunities in your organization to modernize as well, because you will have all the tools. So you've done the prior. What about the claims? So you can still move forward with all of that with the same solution. So this is another benefit, is that it's not only for prior, you can use it for broader use case that suit the needs of your organization, and allow every person involved to understand what is going on, both from the patient, provider, and all your subject matter expert in-house.
So fundamentally, what you're saying is that the approach we're suggesting here is you can just come as a wrapper around your legacy system that you have right now and already be compliant with the FHIR requirement compliance of the API. And then iteratively, you can replace pieces under and add this visual logic that we saw to the point where now you have maybe no legacy, or still some legacy that will remain forever. As we know, legacy has a tendency to stick around for a while. So that way you can use this as an opportunity to migrate from your legacy to a simple visual-driven approach to solving those technological challenges.
Yeah, and maybe one more thing I need to add is that we know that things will never be fully automated, because it's healthcare, it's complex, and it's human body, it's interaction. So there will always be some human interaction along the way, but even those can be part of your modernization. So at some point, okay, there we need a human, but you don't do it right away. Only when you say, okay, I'm missing, it's an edge case that we didn't plan, so we'll need a human to integrate at that point. So this is something that you can embed in your solution as well. The human interaction can be coordinated with all of that. So instead of seeing CMS-57 as a burden, we need to see it as a catalyzer. So we start moving forward, being more cost effective, moving in the 2027 and 2025, and do a digital transformation and optimize things. Because when you see those processes, you can see the bottleneck, you can see what you can improve from there. And Trisotech is there if you need any help doing that.
So fundamentally, the message here is don't see CMS mandate as a burden, but see it more as an opportunity to transform how you've been doing business, to modernize your infrastructure, and all this in a simple visual fashion.
Yeah, exactly. And be able to move forward and be more agile in the future while being compliant, and be ready for any new regulation change as well, because the new ruling that might come might require more automation, different pattern, more different areas. So if you have all the tools already, you'll be more agile to react to future regulation changes as well.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melanie, but my understanding is that the implementation guides that are recommended by the mandate, these implementation guides are still evolving. So you've got to put yourself in a situation where you can meet the evolution of the implementation guide that support the actual mandate. So
yes,
flexibility and agility is required for moving forward.
Totally, yes. They are, yeah, that's why they are not required, but strongly recommended to do the implementation. But they are still moving. They are getting more stable by now. They are working hard to make that really ready to be used. So we have 1 minute for question.
Yeah, we're pretty much tight on time, but if somebody want to stick a question in, actually anybody that want to put question in, please feel free to do so. That way we will be able to reply to you offline, as we don't really have time today. We'd like to thank you for your attention. feel free to contact either Melanie or myself or Trisotech generally for any question you may have. We already have customers that are leveraging these solutions to very great beneficial improvement. We look forward to working with you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.